Hey guys, it's Debbie here. Welcome back. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about brows. I'm going to show you guys how to transfer them from this to this. I'm also going to share with you guys tips and tricks that I use for soft and lasting brows. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on your post notification bell if you haven't yet. Without wasting any time, let's just go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to need is a spoolie. So this is the brush that I'm using. It comes with the spoolie and the flat brush on the other side. So basically, the first step that you want to do is to gently brush your eyebrows. For me, this is the most important part because you're like placing your brows. So for today, I am gonna go in with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Dipbrow Pomade in Ebony, and I'm also going to be using the Fenty Brow MVP in the shade medium brown. This one is in the shade medium brown. So basically, the first thing that you want to do is, you can choose to do it this way, or you can just use the Dipbrow by itself. But what I like to do is go in with the Fenty, just outline the bottom starting from the front and working my ways towards the tail. And once you get to the center, if you have thin brows like me, once you get to the center, you kind of like want to follow your brow line, but same time you don't really, like, if you have thin brows, you don't have much to work with. So you kind of want to, like, once you get to the center, kind of like avoid following your line, if that makes any sense. Like, kind of like dodge your natural brow line just a little bit above it, just once you get to the center, and then connect to the tail just like that. So just coming back, once you get to the center, just kind of like invent your own line and then follow back to on that top, on the tail side. Okay, so now that is done, for the top part, with the pencil still, I'm gonna go in. This is the part where it can get a little confusing, especially if you have thin brows like me. But whatever you do, don't worry too much, because once we conceal, everything will look better. On the upper part of the brows, you want to start kind of like in the center. So now if you have thin brows, you don't really have much to work with. So you want to start in the center of the brow. Don't start in the front, start in the center and kind of like work your ways towards the tail. Remember, you're just outlining, you're not filling in, and then kind of like heading a little bit towards the front, just like that. You don't ever want to make the front look harsh, because that is the part that is going to make the brows look more natural and stuff. So you want to be really gentle, not to really even bother going to the front. I'll show you guys why. So still outlining the part here and connecting it to the tail. Now I'm just going to do the same process on the other brows. There's always that one brow that will give you like a really hard time, and this brow, I feel like this is the brow that gives me the hardest time. So this is just my own technique, my own preference. You don't have to specifically do this. What I like to do is I like to like bend my head a little bit like this to kind of like, you know, as I'm going up, I kind of have a better positioning or whatever you want to call it. So basically I just bend my head a little bit like this. Like I mentioned, you don't have to do this. This is just what works for me. And so once we get to the center, you kind of like want to invent a line. Because like I mentioned, there's nothing much to work with. Okay, just like that. And then doing the same process for the upper part. Start in the center. Okay, it should look a little something like this. This is just the outlining process. Now with the Anastasia Beverly Hill and the angle brush, you just want to start filling it. Now you want to add some product on the brush, but not too much. I'm gonna fill in the areas between those two lines, starting from the center towards the tail. You just want to do it like that. Just going back on that line, kind of like this. Now it's time to fill in the front part. So the way you want to fill in the front part is with whatever you have left from filling in the center and towards the tail and stuff. So whatever product you have left on there, because remember, you barely want to put products on the front part, but you don't want it to look ombre because there's no such thing as ombre brows. How we're going to do this is we're going to lightly press, like barely pressing, because the front part is where the brows will look as natural as they can be. So this is how you want to do it, like this, like barely pressing, like keep it really lightly. Like that. Just like that. And then remember, we're using whatever we have left on the brush from filling in the back side. So kind of like this. And now it should look a little something like this. Now going in with the spoolie, we're just going to brush. Remember, whenever you have the time to stop filling, and always brush, because the more you brush, the more natural the products will look on you. You keep brushing them upwards, never downwards. You always want to brush upwards, just because so your brow hair can blend in with the product and it will look as natural as possible. Now you're going to need a flat brush. This one is from Morphe. It's the M224. Yeah, so this is the flat brush that I'm going in with. It has some concealer on it already. So for my bottom, the bottom part of my brows, I'm going in with the Juvia's Place concealer in the shade 13. And for the top part, I always go in with something that is like darker or closer to my skin tone. like I mentioned, you don't want to put too much concealer because then it will reflect on the brows. So just pulling the concealer downwards. I'm kind of like blending it downwards, kind of like that. I'm just gonna do the same thing for the other brow. So this is the part that if you have any mistakes, you can clean up. So like I mentioned, you don't have to worry too much because the concealer really fixes up every mistake that you actually made. You can literally erase whatever it is that you did wrong with the concealer, just going downwards. Okay, kind of like that. Blend out that concealer. Like, you don't want to remove it, you just kind of want to like blend it so it just makes it clean. The Born This Way concealer in the shade Chestnut. So that is what I'm using for the top part. Once it's like concealed and everything and you kind of like remove it, I feel like the brows is kind of like removed, I just go in with extra brow product and just kind of like refill it, because sometimes you will end up removing some parts that you shouldn't have. And when it's concealed, you kind of see which parts don't match. So this is where I go. Whatever you do, never touch the front side. I'm gonna go in with my Laura Mercier translucent setting powder. You can use any translucent powder, and then on the spoolie side, kind of like put a little bit of the translucent powder and brush it on the brow. Don't put too much because it will reflect. So I just do that because it helps the brows to not sweat through, and I find that it makes it last longer throughout the day. I know that some people do go in with the duo glue and they add it just to make, because you know sometimes your brows will tend to move. So I know that some people actually put the glue so that the hairs don't move. But whenever I put this translucent powder, I find that it doesn't actually move, and it actually lasts for the whole day. Like I will not sweat, these brows will not sweat through. And yeah, that's kind of like what I always do. It works for me actually. And yeah, it should look a little something like this. So yeah, so that is pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and always remember that your brows are sisters and not twins, okay? So don't stress yourself, or like don't give up while doing them. I know it can be a little bit tough in the beginning, but you want to keep trying over and over. Just keep trying until you get better at it, and I promise you, you will get better at it. Just don't give up. Whatever you do, don't give up. And yeah, just keep practicing. Use whatever you have to do the brows, as I listed many alternative products, similar products to the Anastasia Beverly Hills and also the Fenty Beauty, that you can get for a much affordable price. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys on my next one. Bye.